All right, guys, I want to give a warm pleasure of introducing Michael here. He is incredible. He's got so much knowledge. So I'm going to let him take the reins from here. And feel free to ask him questions, interact, and just get, garner as much knowledge as he can. All right, my friend, all you.
Sweet. I'm gonna share my. I think I sent a Notion thing to Justin. I'm just gonna share it on here as well, just so you guys can check it out and see. Sweet. Well, hey guys, what's up? My name's Michael. I'm a producer, songwriter based in the Bay Area, California. I'm currently signed to Sony with a pub deal, mainly specialized in K-pop and a lot of sync licensing and stuff in that matter. For this call too, like feel free to ask any questions you want. I'm an open book, super transparent. So anything you have questions on, more than happy to ask and answer. So yeah, some background about me. But I started working and producing music back in GarageBand in like fifth grade in the computer lab. This was like '06, '07. So just taking loops, putting them together and trying to make something that was somewhat enjoyable. Ended up DJing and kind of learning Ableton through high school. And my main goal was to be like Skrillex. I wanted to be, at EDC kind of with the crowd and everything. That didn't end up falling through and ended up going to music school. I applied to a bunch of schools and ended up getting into USC for the music business program there. I attended in 2016 to 2020. And then, as everyone knows, COVID hit. So that kind of ruined everything. But while I was at USC, I was doing a lot of like sync pitching. So I had a professor. He was one of the writers on the Paw Patrol theme song. So he was connected with Nickelodeon. He was doing a lot of brief writing. So did a class with him, and he was the first person that introed me to Japan. So we were doing a lot of J-pop briefs with him, a lot of sync stuff. His manager used to be the head of licensing, I believe, at Nickelodeon. So through that connection, a lot of it was great. Just figuring out like what exactly sync licensing is, like different avenues and different things to try out in the industry. Also did some internships at some PR companies and a management firm while I was in college as well. Just to find out that I really don't want to do that. So good way to segment and to dive into more production was kind of the main goal with this. So, but yeah, so COVID hit. At that point, I had been doing some work with this one publisher I had met via school. That ended up going sour because what ended up happening was that publisher had an initial idea of what he wanted the deal to look like, and then he changed it a little bit later after a lot of his writers were leaving due to personal reasons, or they just figured out they couldn't work with him. So that ended up kind of dissolving. At this point, I was like, okay, I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm not making any money from my music, and I'm like kind of lost at this point. So basically set a goal for myself at this time of like, hey, I'm gonna reach out to like 3 to 5 people every day, and it doesn't matter like if they're bigger than me or smaller than me. I'm just gonna try to build up my network organically while I can, because one, I'm not really doing anything with my days, and two, it's like you're kind of stuck. You're starting off at square zero essentially, so it's like any way to get some jobs, get some more music done is kind of the main goal. So ended up reaching out to this one guy. His name is Andy Lauv. Crazy credits in like the K-pop space. Like, man has worked with every single one of the big groups: BTS, Blackpink, like the Boys, all of these big groups that are pulling in like millions of streams, selling out venues. So I hit him up and I was like, hey man, like would love to talk to you about sync licensing. Like I attended this lecture he was at, and all the panelists I reached out to, and he was one of the, I think, out of 4 panelists, I think 3 out of 4 responded. So he was the one that I met with. Basically just picked his brain about like, what exactly can I be doing? Would you listen to my music? Would you like love some feedback from you? Ended up working with him like a year on and off with demos, and then he actually signed to another company that I'm now with as well, as an A&R. And he was like, yeah, I think you're ready. If you want to potentially meet the team, they're down to offer you a pub deal if that's something you'd be interested in. So got offered the deal in February of last year, signed in August. So I've only been with them for, what is it, like 6 months? So pretty short duration. I can go into the terms for the deal too if anyone's curious about that as well. But it's like a 3-year term plus 2-year options. So it's like 5 years potentially in total. And they got me my first cut in Japan for this group, Exile Tribe. They have like a smaller subgroup in March, and it was cool because I went to Japan actually in June, and they had all these what's it called? They still have like physical markets there for CDs and for vinyl, so it was really cool because they had like a whole display for the single that had come out and everything. So went to a bunch of stores, bought a bunch of copies. So yeah, Yeah. But that's basically me in a nutshell. In the last couple of years, currently right now I'm focusing on a lot of Korea and a lot of Japanese pitches. I do a lot of sync licensing as well. I have a partnership with Sony and with Sony Extreme, which is their sub like sync licensing label. Um, and yeah. So cool. But yeah, Justin wanted me to kind of overview like what music publishing is. So if you guys do have any questions, feel free to just unmute and just ask. More than happy to help answer or clarify anything. But music publishing is very different than if you were an artist signed to a label. So think of like music publishing as like one sphere, right? And then the second sphere being a record label deal. So record labels sign artists, right? They're signing, Drake, Post Malone, Doja Cat. That's what they do. They sign artists. Music publishing, on the other hand, they're signing writers. So think like, I forgot who Drake's producers was, like Noah 40, I think. So they're signing Noah 40. They're signing like the writers that wrote, Beyonce's album. They're signing those types of people. So think of them as like the more behind the scenes, making the song ready for then the performer, which is the artist, to perform and record and do their own version of. Um, Ideally, a music publisher's goal is to exploit and to maximize the amount of money that they're making from your song. So if they have 10 writers under their publishing label, their main goal is like, hey, we want you to make X amount of songs in this duration amount of time. Our goal is to maximize any way to find placements, any way to make money off of those songs. And that is generally like placing those songs with artists, one, two, getting like sync deals and landing them in TV, film, and movies. And three, kind of a more miscellaneous, like we're seeing like video games pop up now, like Fortnite collabs, other video game collabs, more specialized music. You can see that with that, like with League of Legends, like they have their own kind of record label subdivision. We're seeing kind of a more cross like pollinization of that, which is what publishers are trying to find. Another thing would be like ringtones, like other random stuff you wouldn't think would generate too much money, but there still is a market for that sort of stuff. So, this we kind of cover. Cool. So, not sure who's trying to be a producer, who's trying to be an artist, but it's always important to know where you're making money in the industry. That's like the bare minimum. When you leave college, hopefully you graduate, but when you do leave college, it's important to know exactly how to make money once you leave, because if you don't, then like you're going to be moving back home and you're not really going to be sure what to do. So there's three different types of royalties that you can get paid as a songwriter and as a producer. The first one's the mechanicals. We all know that when your song is either played physically, that's like a CD, vinyl record, MP3 file, or when it's streamed digitally, you are getting a mechanical royalty. They call it mechanicals because basically every time your song is, quote unquote played, that's when you're going to get paid for it. Or whenever it's duplicated. So like a CD, MP3, thing like that. So there's mechanical pay for that. Next is public performance royalties, which is whenever your song is performed publicly. This includes live venues, but it also includes streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music. So it's important to make sure that you're registered with a PRO. I can talk about this a little bit later. But your PRO is responsible for collecting this money for you. As a writer, you are keeping 100% of your writer's share. Publishers do not touch that. Like whenever you get a statement, for example, if I got a placement with Blackpink, right, and then it was streamed 1 million times, I would get my writer's share of that 1,000,000 streams. My publisher would not touch that. They only touch the publisher's share. So there's two halves for every time a song is streamed. There's the writer's share and the publisher's share, but they all add up to 100%. It's a little bit confusing if you're with ASCAP or if you're with BMI because the percentages don't really match up. BMI treats it as a 200%. So it's 100% for the writers and 100% for the publishers, but they dilute to 100%. It makes more sense when you're with them. But just keep in mind that there's two shares, each are 100%, but they're all part of one full song whenever it's played. So with the publisher share, they're keeping that. That's kind of their royalties for the amount of work that they put in. There are some deals where you might give up a writer's share. Like I work with this one company where they do take part of the writer's share, but that's because they're giving an upfront fee for the track. So it does really depend on what your deal is and what type of situation that has. But for the most part, you're never giving that up. You're always going to keep that, and you're going to get that directly from your PRO with a bank deposit or a check every few months. So, yeah. Next thing is sync licensing. So this is kind of the big money ticket if you've been on TikTok. Like this is how to get your song synced on, this show or that show, right? Everyone tries to advertise it as a quick, easy way to make money. There is money there, but a lot of it is like a quantity and quality over everything else. Like I've gotten my songs placed on, I think recently, Mass Singer, Shark Tank, the American Horror Story premiere. Like I had one song on there, but like those fees are very different depending on who plays the song, the duration, the usage, and a bunch of other factors. But basically, it's when they take your song and they pair it with some physical or digital media. So think like a commercial, TV show, an ad, anything like that, where it has some visual component. That's a sync license, and you're going to get paid for that both on the mechanical, or sorry, both on the recording and on the composition side. So, yeah, there's definitely money there. Something to explore. But it does take a lot of work, and I will talk about that a little bit later. Yeah. Cool. So, any questions so far? We just gonna steamroll through. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free. We'll probably have plenty of time at the end too if you want to pick my brain about anything. I'm more than happy to help as well. So this is the nitty gritty fun part. But there's various types of publishing deals. There's not really like a one size fits all, and that's because depending on the writer, they can ask for more things or they can ask for less things depending on how much the word is clout, but depending on their fame, how many songs they've sold in the past, and like who they've worked with. That all really matters and kind of dictates what they can ask for in a deal, right? So I'm gonna go through a couple of these and give some examples, but the first one is a non-exclusive deal. This is not very common. Like you will honestly never really see something like this. But this means like, hey, you're not exclusively sending your music to a publisher. That means that any other non-exclusive publisher you can also send your music to. So think like if RCA was looking for songs, you can send them to there. But if also Sony was looking for songs, you can send them as well to that agency. You're not really binded by a specific contract, and it's not exclusive, so you can work as many as you want. This really comes into play for like sync licensing, where you can non-exclusively pitch your music to different companies. So like Crucial Music is a company that's not exclusive. They accept music. I think Smash House is another one. They're all kind of like separate, so you can kind of pitch wherever you want. The next one is song by song. So this one is a little bit more exclusive. This really comes into play for like writing camps, right? Like I was invited to a writing camp in March for SM. They're like one of the bigger K-pop labels. And anything we made in that camp, that's kept by the label for a set duration. So I think it's like a 2-year duration. Anything we made in those sessions. You can also do it with other publishers. So sometimes like a TikTok artist might blow up, right? And they have a song and they want to have a, song deal with whatever label. Think like Baby No Money. I think he did like a distribution deal with like Sony or Universal when his song came out. Edamame, I think. That's a song by song date basis where it's like he's just that one song is with that label and they now own a percentage of it and they're trying to push it. He can do whatever he wants with the rest of his catalog and, either have another deal or do another song by song, really depending on that. So it gives you kind of more flexibility in that sense. Yeah. Next is exclusive. Exclusive is kind of the deal that I have where I'm exclusively linked to my publisher. So that means I'm not allowed to send my stuff to another publisher. I am stuck with this one. So he's kind of like my representation in the songwriting / like top lining world. So anything I want to do, if I want to work with an artist, I got to let them know like, hey, I'm planning on working with this artist. They handle all of the business for me. And they also handle all of the pitching. So think of them as kind of like an agent. They're trying to get the songs placed and trying to find avenues to monetize and make money from that music. Exclusive generally is what a lot of you are probably going to get offered if you're trying to do songwriting after college, because one, they can lock you in for a duration. So like with me, I'm locked in for 3 years plus 2 if I consider doing those additional 2 years. And there's an advance that's usually paid. I personally didn't take an advance, but an advance, for those that don't know, is like a payment that they pay you either in a lump sum or over installments for your like career with them. Take, for example, like you get like $50,000, right? That $50,000 is a loan and has to be paid back over the course of your duration with that company, and even past that. So, if you made $45,000 in your career and you decide to leave that publishing company, they're not going to pay any of your royalties until that $50,000 is recouped. Recouped is basically just means paid back. So until that happens, you're not seeing any of your royalties. A lot of people do complain and are like, why am I not seeing any money? It's because like they paid you upfront for like the music. So they're expecting to get some sort of return and then they'll process your royalties after the fact. So that's how that kind of works. Yeah. Next is buyout. So buyout, we're seeing a lot of, if you're following like Music Business Worldwide or any of those like publications like Billboard, you see artists always selling like, Justin Timberlake sold his catalog to, whatever, I think Hypnosis music group for like 1 point something billion or 1 point something million. This is basically where you sell your ownership of your music. So think like you have a computer and you sell it to someone, they now own that computer and they can profit and do whatever they want with it. So that's a buyout. This is more common nowadays for legacy artists that are trying to just monetize some of their music because one, they're not really, generating a lot from it anymore. And two, like they'd rather get $5 million now and not have to worry about the logistics or the management for that catalog. So it does make sense. Some people don't really think it makes sense, but it really just depends on that artist. Every artist is open to selling their catalog because after a certain time, right, your song is not generating that much money. So it's like any way you can maybe get a little bit more out of it could be worth it. You can sell the composition as well as you can sell the master recording side. So there's two different copyrights you can sell whenever you are having a buyout deal. So that's important to note. And there's two different royalties associated with each as well. So just something to consider if you do end up trying to sell your track. Think of like if you make beats and you're like on BeatStars, like if you sell and it's a buyout exclusive deal, then you're like selling the rights to your song for like, 1 to 2K. They get to keep everything that's generated from that song. You don't do any collection on your half. They basically own it now. So that's just something to consider. But yeah. Next is admin deal. So this is something I would recommend you all look into as soon as you, if you're making music, definitely look into getting some sort of administrative deal. Basically what this company does is they are responsible for, collecting, registering, and, basically just that. They're responsible for collecting and registering your music in case it's performed in foreign territories. So for example, like stuff that I'm making that's, performed in Japan, right? There's no way for me to know when it's getting played or which PROs are responsible for collecting that money. Admin pubs make that easy. They basically go there, they have relationships with these companies, and they make sure that whenever your song is streamed in Japan or Korea or, Iran, wherever, that you're going to get that money back in some way. So they handle all the registration and the expedite payments for you. So usually it's like 2 to 3 years to see any foreign royalties just because of the way that the logistics works and the way that side of the industry functions. So it does take a while, but they do expedite it. I'm with Songtrust. They pay 4 times a year. There's like TuneCore Publishing, CD Baby Pro. They take a set percentage. So it's like, think of it kind of like a maintenance fee they take, just to kind of do that management and that catalog stuff for you. So, and finally, co-publishing. This is more rare and you really only see it with like bigger artists, but like if Taylor Swift, for example, was like, hey, like, I really want to get into Asia. Like we need to find a publisher that's in Asia that can do it really well. Avex would be a good example. Avex is a really big publisher in Japan and Korea. She'd be like, hey, I want to do a co-publishing deal with you. Basically Avex would become the admin. So they would be handling all the administrative tasks in Japan and Korea. And then Taylor Swift's publishing company in, the US would be handling all that. Avex would be taking a small percentage. So think of it kind of like a partnership. We see it more with independent labels signing up with like Sony, Warner, or Universal, doing some kind of partnership like that. Mainly because major labels tend to have a bigger network and they have the infrastructure to support all the collection and all the information that's important for them. So yeah, but that's basically all the different types of deals in a nutshell. There can be more depending on the type of artist. For example, like you can really walk in whatever you want depending on how much money you're pulling in and how big your catalog is. Like you can ask for anything. Like if Beyonce was like, hey, I want to do a song by song, but I'm going to work with like 80 publishers and each publisher is going to get a different song. She could do that because she's Beyonce and she's big and she's huge and she can basically do whatever she wants. Right. So it really just depends on that situation. So yeah. So we have a question. Someone raise your hand. Go for it.
Yes. So it's just a quick question, but so I see like artists like, for example, if you look at Olivia Rodrigo, right?
Mhm.
And then I whenever I go down to like the bottom, I would see like so like she would own the album, but then it's like under like exclusive license to the publisher. Like what kind of deal would that be? If that makes any sense.
So with her, it's different because she's a writer and an artist, so she does like co-write a lot of her music. That's probably just like a song by song deal. I think she's signed to a label though, and it's probably I'm trying to think of what you're trying to ask. I'm pretty sure.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like it's like is it possible that like you as a writer or an artist, right? Like you own your catalog, but then you like exclusively license it back to a publisher for them to make money.
Yeah. So gotcha. Okay. So take Olivia Rodrigo before she was signed, right? She was just like this other girl that's just writing music. So she owns 100% of her music, right? She owns, whatever album she just put out, right? So once she signs like a publishing deal, she decides which songs are included in that deal. And now that publishing company owns those songs for a set duration of time. So she's basically like, that's what the advance is for. Like, she's basically getting paid alone in exchange for her money, or sorry, in exchange for her music for a set duration. After that duration is up, it's called reversion, where those songs would go back to her. Sometimes contracts don't have reversion, which means that the company just keeps the music forever, but they can still continue to find and exploit it. You'll still get paid if that happens. Like if they do place the songs, like you'll still get paid for that. But with her, it's like once that catalog has been licensed by a publisher, it's not, she doesn't own it anymore. She's still getting paid for it, but she doesn't own it. In the sense of like, yeah, if that, she gave up her publisher share, essentially. That's what's happening. She keeps the writer share. Publisher share is owned by Sony or whatever label signed her. So, yeah.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Cool. This is the not so fun part of this, but this is just like what ASCAP royalty statements look like. I can just skim it. This is pretty much like you'll get these at some point too. I'm gonna hopefully zoom in so you guys can actually see it. But yeah, they tell you the type of rights, the territory. The credits are like every PRO has a different credit form where it's like, oh, this credit is worth like $4 or $5 or the $6. So depends. This year to date earnings tab tells you exactly like when you're getting paid. So you can see you're getting paid technically 8 times a year. You're getting 4 for domestic and then 4 for international. It ends up being offset a month. So like January, I get domestic royalties. In February, I should see my international come in just through a deposit. But that's all dependent on the PRO. The statement summary breaks down where the music is generating money. So you can see Fox, generated $37. Univision, I think, is some other like blanket license TV station. Cable, $33. Internet is like Spotify, Apple Music. That's where probably most of the money is going to come in from, anyways. And then this is the fun part where they basically tell you like where it's used. So this is like the series and film. This really only applies for sync. Where it was used, the song that was used, the percentage I own, the amount of plays, and then the duration. And then depending on that, credit is formed. So you can see a lot of these are like, I own 12.5% of a song. It was used for 10 seconds. I get paid like $1 for that, right? So the main thing with sync is like you ideally want like thousands of those entries on your statement every month, because if you have, for example, like there's this one song, right, has been used in like 15 to 16 different shows, and because of that, it's generated like a couple $1,000s just from that one song. The goal, if you're trying to do sync, is to maximize the amount of songs you have that can get placed like that, where it's like you have 100 songs, you get $5 for them each year. That's like $500 you wouldn't see otherwise. What if you doubled that? What if you tripled it? That's kind of the main goal for a lot of sync licensing nowadays, just getting on more music and getting on more shows like that. So yeah, cool. So this is if I was trying to get a publishing deal, these are some ways that I recommend, depending on if you're an artist or a songwriter, and just better ways I think that would work versus just like cold emailing the company and saying, I have some songs, listen to them. That generally doesn't really work super well. It's best to try to have some sort of bridge established. First one, easiest, is I recommend reaching out to people that are already signed to that publishing company and seeing if they're down to collaborate. If you're a producer, be like, hey, I have a bunch of tracks that would fit, in this sort of vein, would love to work together if you're interested. Leave it at that. It's important to note that like you should never be asking for something in these emails or DMs, because people hate that. It's like, it's the equivalent of you like in your car and someone's like asking you for spare change. Like you might feel down to do it sometimes, but if they're doing that every single time, you're like, man, I don't know this guy. I don't know who they are. Like, I'm not really digging it. So that is something to be aware of. Always come with something. When I was reaching out to people in cold emailing, I would send them like a $10 Starbucks gift card and be like, hey, like if you can meet for like 10 minutes, that'd be great. If not, totally fine. That way they get something and they feel bad if they don't respond. So it's a good way to, the psychology works. It ended up working well. Cool. Next thing, cold DMs. You would be surprised on how much of the music industry works off of Instagram. Like the old people, it's Facebook. For us, it's Instagram. Follow them, DM them, always pick their brain, interact with the stuff that they write in their story. Like they're people too at the end of the day, and a lot of times like they will also doom scroll on their phone and just kind of scroll randomly and aimlessly. It's worth sending your stuff to them. You never know who might respond. That's how I meet a lot of the writers I work with nowadays. I just DM them like, hey, like my name's blank, would love to work. Here's some tracks. Like, let me know if anything are interesting so I can hold them for you. Great way to build a more organic like interaction versus just like sending them stuff through your publisher and just having them handle the work. So word of mouth was like definitely think more of a common thing when we didn't have COVID. That was more like if you're like showing up in sessions, if you're showing up in studios and people kind of know your work ethic that way, it's a good way to connect with them. This really comes into play if you're like interning at a studio. You have more of a face-to-face interaction. So it's a little bit easier to hopefully get to know that person and slowly plug your stuff over time. So always a possibility. And then finally, A&R. Everyone knows you can submit to A&Rs. They usually have some sort of portal built in, some sort of email you can send stuff to. It's best to keep it very short and simple. These people are probably going to be checking their email on their phone when they have a spare moment. So just give them a short bio of who you are and a link to some music and just keep it at that. Keep it very simple. No one has time to read your life story. And honestly, no one really cares because they're trying to find artists to sign and they want to find good music. And like, for the most part, your background doesn't really matter for that. So respect their time, try to keep it simple. If you can read the email in like 60 seconds, that's a good sign. Make a template for that too. Like just keep it very short and simple is kind of what I'm trying to advocate for. This one isn't really important, but the notable companies for publishing in the music industry, there's Sony Music Publishing, as we all know. That's Sony's division. Universal Music Publishing, which pulled their music off of TikTok. That is Universal's publishing group. And then Warner Chappell has their own as well. So all three major labels have their own publishing entities. And these will always have some sort of partnership with there's smaller ones like Cobalt, Pure Music, BMG, Roundhill, Spirit, Concord. These are like smaller, quote unquote publishing groups that have partnerships with these bigger ones. So yeah. So for example, like the one I'm with, Hello Group, they have a admin deal with Sony. So Sony handles all of the registration, paperwork, and like royalty flow for the Hello Group, and we get paid directly from them. So yeah, they make it a little bit easier for us, and that's how it all works. So, but yeah, I'll email this to Justin too, just so you guys don't have to write it all down because it'll be easier just reference for next time. But yeah, any questions, any concerns, any? Are you guys artists? Raise your hand if you're an artist or trying to be an artist. When you
I do both, but mostly I'm trying to focus on production right now. Sorry, I'm in a little hallway, people, because I couldn't find a room.
You're good. You're good. Cool. So keep your hand raised if you're trying to be an artist. So like half. Okay. What about like songwriters, producers? Okay. Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I think you guys are third years, right? Juniors, or what are you? Sophomores? What? Seniors? Wait. Okay, never mind. Well, you're close to graduating. So what I would recommend right now in terms of like things you can definitely do is I would be spending time trying to grow your network outside of school, mainly because you're students, right? It's a lot easier to reach out to like industry professionals as a student because they remember either being in high school or being in college and understanding like that you're basically starting from nothing. So they want to be, your first helping hand. People are very open to helping students. Reach out. Like I personally would try reaching out to someone every day, even if it's just like, you're like on the toilet, like send a DM, be done with it, move on, tomorrow do another thing, because it's a lot harder to reach out to people when you're not in school and you're just kind of a nobody that no one really knows that doesn't have any music done, right? Make it easy for them, make it, more organic like that. As producers and songwriters, I would recommend spending time building up your catalogs as well. If you don't do that already, sign up with something like Disco, or even for cheap like SoundCloud or Dropbox, and have like a folder of like, these are demos that are done that I can showcase my talents to hopefully use that as leverage to reach out to, different writers and different producers to work with, because it's a lot easier if you have stuff done and out versus nothing that's done and out. Because imagine you're a writer and you want to work with a producer, but you don't have any experience and you don't have any demos finished. It's a lot harder for them to decide it's worth their time to invest in, doing stuff with you. So always have that ready. Always have that in hand. Just save it as like a shortcut on your phone so you can just send it pretty easily and quickly. What else? If you're not signed up with a PRO, you need to do that today. Like, you should, bare minimum, if you're trying to be a writer and songwriter, that's the only way you get paid. Like, you have to be signed up with a PRO. It doesn't matter if you're with ASCAP or BMI, just choose one. ASCAP, I think, is free now. BMI is like $80 because they got acquired recently this year, or last year. Sign up with one of them. You don't really need to sign up with an admin publisher for a while unless you're putting out music. What else can I say?
Yeah, actually, I got a question for you as well, Michael.
Go for it. Yeah.
So I think honestly, like that for students as well, or artists who, maybe not getting a lot of streams, right? Their music isn't generating a lot.
Yeah.
I think a big question we could all have is sort of like, what do you think would be the bare minimum of organizations to sign up for? Because basically before you came on, we talked about like Sound Exchange. We looked into the RIAA and all that stuff as well. We did a little brief beforehand, but like, what do you think would be sort of a good place to start? It's just like, okay, these are a few groups that even though maybe I'm not generating crazy streams right now, I still should be, a part of this. Because some people may not really need Song Trust yet and things like that. So I'd be curious.
For sure. So at minimum, if you're putting out music, you should be with some sort of distributor like DistroKid, TuneCore, CD Baby. But that's only if you're putting stuff out. Like if you have an artist project, you should be with one of them because they're handling all the distribution royalties and they're paying mechanicals to you directly. 1, 2, PRO. Like you should be registered with ASCAP or BMI as a writer and a publisher. Your publishing entity is going to be you when you first start off because you're going to be self-published. BMI allows you to be self-published and they'll roll up your share into one account. ASCAP, that's not the case. You need to have a writer account and a publisher account in order to get the full percentage of whatever your streaming royalties are. Make sure sign up is both.
Is that called like a vanity group as well? Like you do a vanity group? I'm not sure if that's what it is, but
honestly, people just put the full name. Sorry, go for it.
Like you'd make a fake LLC in a way, or just give it some type of name. Not like a fake LLC, but you would give it some type of name. Otherwise,
much.
You wouldn't be paid in full or something.
No, yeah, exactly. You would basically put like mine is like AZUMA Publishing. Like that's all it is. And they collect the publishing share for the stuff that wasn't with Song Trust. So basically, because this was before I had an admin publisher. Once you have an admin publisher, they will handle the collection for the publishing for you. So being with something like Song Trust, they help register with the MLC as well. So the MLC is kind of what Harry Fox does. They both do the exact same thing. They just have the MLC because it's government mandated and they're really trying to get money. Like I think they're suing Pandora right now to get us money, which is great. Like thank you for them. But yep. Yeah, so like the only reason I'm with Song Trust is because they handle registration for like 2 or 3 other agencies that I don't want to have to do on my part. If anyone has registered something on Sound Exchange before, you will realize how nitpicky and annoying it is to register there, because if the original artist hasn't made an account and registered the song, you can't get paid until they do that, because they have this whole letter of direction bullshit that they have added onto there. Yeah, Sound Exchange for me hasn't really generated a ton of money, but it's still worth just signing up because like it's a good practice and you gotta be making sure like, hey, if you're generating pennies, you got to make sure you're collecting those pennies, because at some point they're going to be, hundreds and thousands of dollars. But having that workflow built in whenever you put out a song is going to be really important because, So, but those are the 4. So Song Trust, a PRO, ideally an admin publisher like, Song Trust or whatever. And then finally, that's only 3. Wait, Sound Exchange, distributor, but that's only if you're putting out music. So those are the minimums. In terms of like trying to get more streams for your music, I'm not sure if you guys hate TikTok, but like you have to be posting on TikTok and like kind of do like what Justin does, right? Justin does like very short, digestible, helpful videos that are very easy to follow and that he can crank out 10 in a day, you know? That's the whole point. Like you want to ideally find something that you can make consistently that doesn't kill you, that you want to make every day to promote your music, because 90% of the audience that's going to be seeing your content doesn't follow you and doesn't know who you are. So for them, anything you show them is going to be the first time they see it. So it's worth like set a day. Like Wednesdays is personally the day I use to make all my content. I'll spend like 2 or 3 hours filming and then recording and editing. And I'll schedule them and draft them in TikTok. So then on like Tuesday in the afternoon, I can just press upload and I'm done for the day. So worth considering doing that. It's a great way to build up your network and a great way to find new people as well. Just kind of growing on social media like that, because everyone's using it and everyone's on it. So like, why not take the risk? I've gotten like sponsorship opportunities from TikTok. I only started posting back in like May. So it's only been like a year and a half so far. And yeah, it's like post every day is what I would say is a minimum for sure, if you're trying to take it serious. Yeah.
Any other questions from the class? Any other questions, guys? Anything at all?
Yeah, thank you so much.
But yeah, you can send anything to my email as well if you have any questions after this. More than happy to help. Let me try to think. My recommendation, if you aren't already, is definitely have some sort of like checklist built into your workflow. Like if you wake up in the morning, like what are 5 things you need to do every day? And then have a like weekly checklist of like, hey, these are the things that I need to do and accomplish for projects that I have. You have to do that because once you graduate, there is nothing keeping your day structured, and it's very easy to get off track, as probably a lot of you know. So I personally use Notion. Notion's free, and it's like a great way to build out templates like that. Try it out. Like you can have it on your phone. You can set up goals. Make it easy to do the things that you know you have to do, because it becomes harder when stuff in life, picks up. So yeah, that's what I recommend for sure. Don't use Asana. Don't use Trello. I fucking hate those programs. Those are not the ones I like using. Notion is the best, and it's free. Use the free ones. So yeah.
Yeah, and what's funny is a couple classes back, I introduced them to Notion as well.
Oh yeah.
So they're already aware of it, which is good.
I'll show mine real quick. One sec. Let me.
Amazing insight, amazing information, absolute wealth of knowledge. Just like I said, guys. So yeah, thanks so much for sharing the insight and being down to help and just pop in the class. Really appreciate it, my friend.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for chatting, guys. But yeah, feel free to connect with me on Instagram or my email. I think I can just put it in the chat real quick.
Yeah, definitely give him a follow, guys, on social. He does lots of really good videos, really good stuff.
The username is the same off of everything too, so it's all Music by AZUMA on whatever, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Yeah, so which I'd recommend you do too if you haven't already. Like, make it easy for people to find you, because like I hate an artist that sends like, oh, like check out my SoundCloud, and it's like there's like underscores and there's like weird punctuation. Just make it easy for people to find you. If you have to change your artist name, do it. But any way to reduce the friction is gonna be super key. So yeah. Well, hopefully it's not storming and raining where you guys are. The Bay Area has been flooding for the past like 2 weeks. So yeah.
Nah, just cold weather and freezing wind chill.
Oh,
nothing too
man.
bad.
You guys should have gone to school in LA, bro. I tell you, the weather was great. No storms, no anything like that. So
It sounds nice, honestly.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, guys, let's give him a round of applause. But seriously, thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, my friend. We'll chat and talk soon, but really appreciate you doing this again. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, take it easy, guys. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.